It's a conversation.
We're on. We're live.
All right.
Well, we're not live, but we're recording. Surprise, we're live.
Surprise, we're live. Yeah. All right. Here we
Happy
go.
Friday.
In 5, 4, 3, 2. Greetings and welcome to the Arts and Mind Village Chat. I'm Fred Johnson, artist in residence and community engagement specialist at the Straz Center for the Performing Arts. Happy to be with you here once again as we continue our exciting series supporting arts and health, a conversation about the importance of art in all of its modalities in support of the health and well-being of individuals, communities, and ultimately, we hope, all of humankind. I'm here with two of my colleagues from the Art and Mind team, Emma's been on vacation, so it's been a little bit of time since I've said her name. Emma Trapp, who is our community engagement manager. Miss Viev Rada Price from Taya Artistry in New York City. And we are honored to have with us today Dr. Christina Kennedy, who has a huge title and is responsible. I loved when we first talked earlier, she said, you know, touching the lives of children in all ways, in all of the ways that BayCare Medical System, a phenomenal organization that supports our arts and health initiative, has been supporting us. And we're honored to have Dr. Kennedy here to talk about some of the amazing work that you do with young people. So Viev and Emma and Dr. Kennedy, welcome to the Village Chat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Dr. Kennedy, to be more specific, tell us your role, the role that you play with BayCare.
So first and foremost, I am a pediatrician in the Tampa Bay area and have practiced here for 23 years. And about, I don't know, a half dozen years or so ago, I took on the role as the Pediatric Service Line Medical Director for the BayCare Health System, which basically oversees all of our pediatric programs. So that's no matter where the location is, whether it's inpatient in our children's hospital at St. Joseph Children's, or whether it's at one of our outpatient clinics or one of our specialty clinics. It's seeing that we have an opportunity to reach out and be there for all the patients in our region and be able to provide care for them. I also am thrilled to be a part of our new pediatric residency program here at BayCare. We started 3 years ago, training the next generation of pediatricians. And I work directly with our mobile medical clinic as their medical director, who provides free care in and around approximately 16 sites throughout the Tampa Bay area. And then I also do some population health work with our clinically integrated network for pediatrics. So I do a little bit of everything, but it's easy sometimes because it's my passion and it's what I really, truly love to do.
That's fantastic. I think that one question would be, when does Dr. Kennedy get to rest doing all of that phenomenal work?
I think that's the important thing is you have to learn to balance it, right? So I think I integrate it with what I do, but I also know how to take a good vacation.
Good, that's fantastic. Joining us also now is Miss Nicole Sutton from our Arts and Mind Village Chat team. Welcome, Nicole, to the Village Chat conversation.
Hi there. Sorry that I'm late. I'm Nicole Sutton with the college. Thank you. Thanks so much.
So when the conversation about arts and health began, there were two very, very important organizations that lent their support to us. We have a wonderful 5-year collaboration now with the International Institute for Art and the Mind from Johns Hopkins University. As a matter of fact, they are our partners as we have this Arts and Mind conversation, and usually join us, but are in the midst of a bunch of glorious things now as the season is starting. And so we give you a hello and a welcome from them, Dr. Kennedy, as well. And BayCare Health Systems said, we deeply appreciate the work that the Straz Center is doing, and you all support us. You know, for those folks who may be just joining the Art and Mind Village Chat experience for the first time, we have conversations that explicitly talk about how we merge artistic expression with science and research and the medical community in support of the health and well-being and progressive healing, if you will, of individuals and of communities. We're really excited today because one of the conversations that is not broadly talked about, but in the last year or so has been more talked about in our arts and health conversations, our young people, our children, and how we can support children, how we can, we were involved in a shared conversation with the Surgeon General, who has talked about the importance of the mental health and well-being of young people, especially some of the issues of loneliness and oftentimes some of the issues of the inability for a young person to articulate the full measure of their feelings. And Dr. Kennedy, you all have a phenomenal program that I had the great fortune of being introduced to just a week or so ago that specifically is designed to support the mental health and well-being of young folk. Would you share this program with us?
Yes, Fred, thank you so much for asking about what we are currently doing here at BayCare to support children in mental health. We are part of a nonprofit community here in Tampa Bay that helps support each other. And one of the things that we do to do that for support is we do what's called a community health needs assessment. So every 3 years, that is a survey that goes out to our community. And one thing that we did a little differently 3 years ago was we included a pediatric and a children's questionnaire in that survey. And the one topic that came up being one of the greatest needs across all ages was mental health. So as a health system throughout a large greater Tampa Bay area, what could we do to support the mental health? So we did some research, and upon doing our research, we found a program called On Our Sleeves. This was born out of Nationwide Children's Hospital in Ohio about 6 years ago. And as soon as we became familiar with the program, we were genuinely attracted to it because of the 3 simple premises. Number 1, let's break stigmas around mental health. Number 2, let's start conversations. Let's talk about how we feel. Let's put words to our emotions. And number 3, let's put resources and information out there that are valuable for everybody to use freely. So as a result of this process, we became a partner with On Our Sleeves. So the BayCare Kids On Our Sleeves program was born. So we are exclusive here to this area of West Central Florida, and we are charging full steam ahead. So as part of this program, we developed and launched a website. We'll be celebrating our 1-year anniversary next month in October on World Mental Health Day. And we have partnered now, I think we're up to 23 different nonprofit agencies that deal with children, providing these resources, providing education, and really helping to start the conversations. The premise is really that simple: break stigmas, start conversations, provide resources. And so that's something that we do freely to everybody in Tampa Bay and beyond who has access to those online resources. The On Our Sleeves program merged in this last year to become part of the Kids Mental Health Foundation, which is national as well. And they have 5 other healthcare partners throughout the country. And so we're really excited to bring that here to the Tampa Bay area. We've been privileged to work with a lot of our public school children. We have a monthly newsletter that we produce. And we actually put the main article from that newsletter out to the web edition of an email that goes out to every parent in the school district of Hillsborough County. And then we've been working with a lot of our non-for-profit partners, such as Big Brothers Big Sisters, the Boys and Girls Club, Seniors in Service, and multiple other agencies here in the area to just spread the word and to get the information out that's so critically needed.
So is this a in-clinic kind of an experience for a child or their family? How would the process go? Like if someone was made aware of on our sleeve, what would be, I guess, a typical interaction? What might that look like?
So a typical interaction may actually be your pediatrician having a sign in their office, or a visit to the emergency room where you see a sign with a QR code that you can scan and pull up the website. It could be on our mobile medical clinic that provides the resources to all of the under and unfunded patients that they see on a daily basis. It could be one of our partner organizations that are handing out a deck of what we call conversation cards, which is a deck of 52 starter cards that each have a question. You've got it in your hand where you can ask questions to kids. Sometimes it's like, tell me the best thing about your day, or tell me about something you heard recently that really bothers you. Tell me what you think when you hear that song. What's something you wish you could change? These are all conversations that we can start with kids at a very young age. The other part of that interaction can literally be that you see it on a billboard, or you see it at one of our partner nonprofits who are promoting, and they're like, what is BayCare Kids on our sleeves? It's all about breaking those stigmas and starting the conversation. So if you visit the website, what you're going to see are very simplistic things that you can do to support children in your life and help them become emotionally intelligent. Helping kids from an early age name their feelings, helping them describe what those feelings are, putting those emotions together. So the words, the feelings build the emotion, and then they understand how that makes them feel. What changes do they have in their body? And so if you're having those daily conversations and continuing that conversation, that child is going to feel much more comfortable coming to you when they're having a problem or when they have a bad day, and feel like they're in a safe space. The other benefit is that parents also can get in check with their own emotions. They can learn to take a step back and understand, am I being a good role model for these emotions? Am I really displaying what's the best thing that for my child to see right now? And what's my reaction to the tragedy that I see, to the pandemic that we went through? And how can I change my response to better support them?
That's fantastic. So this is perfect, Dr. Kennedy, because one of the roles of our Arts and Health Initiative and our national conversation with other science and researchers and medical practitioners is to really begin to identify gateways where artistic expression can be utilized. It sounds to me like On Our Sleeves is a perfect candidate for that, because everything that you just outlined, imagine, and we know from some of the science and research and some of the experiences that we've had, that oftentimes, even in conversation, it might be difficult for a child to fully express how they're feeling, what they're feeling, but a painting or 2 or 3 words, or in some instances, movement or song. So it seems to me like that there's a perfect alignment for that. As a pediatric specialist yourself, how does that land with you? How do you feel about the possibilities? Because big one of the big important goals is to really begin to identify ways to infuse artistic expression with structures that are already in place that can take the intentionality of the health outcome to its fullest measure. So how do you feel about the possibility of, like, and I know it's probably not been used yet, but the possibility of being able to infuse creative expression as a part of these kinds of programs?
Absolutely. And I think the one thing that we say the most is behavioral health and mental health is part of your health. Like it's not two separate things. You're one integral person, so you can't just put your thoughts and emotions into a box and stick them to the side. So I think the role for art is really multi-purpose. Looking proactively, it's experience what you're seeing with your children and those around you. So how does this make you feel? When you look at this art, when you experience this performance, when you listen to this song, how does that make you feel? And does it make you feel good? Does it make you feel bad? Does it make you feel worried? Does it make you feel excited? So you understand that there are ways to experience the world. And then the other part is, as a therapy, as an outlet for that emotion, because everybody needs to find that place that makes them happy, that makes them feel reassured, and that they can experience for themselves the world around them. So I think it can be both proactive and reactive and incorporated in all parts of what we're teaching.
That's great. Emma, and some of the work that you've done, because, along with, being our guide in community engagement and with the community engagement team, that you've done social work. Have you experienced instances yourself where creativity, where art sometimes can speak when the individual has a difficult time doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I specialized in was forensic interviewing. So that in itself, one of the number one tools that we use is coloring. It is a way for a child to express themselves. It also creates safety when we create a safe space for a child to be able to express thoughts and feelings and emotions. And art oftentimes is a way to do that. So those trusting, interactions with that prompt of either coloring or, music or drums or something like that uh, to help, I don't want to say disarm, but put a level of comfortability there with the child is huge. And that was one of the, visual arts in my experience has been one of the larger tools just in terms of having a conversation when it comes to mental health. And I know that a lot of other practitioners use different things. Sand has been a really big one. Kinetic sand, I know, is popular, and people talk about, slime has been a really big thing, but there is research and studies that
I've
has
got some of that
really
in my rug
helped.
right now.
I know, but it's been interesting when you think about these things that have been popular in pop culture, but they're popular for a reason when we see overall mental health declines with things like the pandemic. So utilizing things maybe that a child might not and necessarily integrate with a medical appointment or something like that is really important for their own comfort and safety when having any kind of conversation. So, even I know a lot of doctors' offices have things like coloring books, and there's a reason for that. There's scientific reason that maybe you might not think, but there's reasons behind that really end up being helpful for practitioners when it comes to treating mental health, especially in children.
Sure, yeah. Dr. Kennedy, do you have different kinds of art opportunities in clinical settings, or where children can participate in that?
Absolutely. Well, I think it can be as simple as having crayons in our exam rooms, and I
Hmm.
let the kids freely draw on the table paper. So when they're there waiting, they can interact with their family. Sometimes it's playing games, sometimes it's drawing pretty pictures. I've got several that have been torn off and hung up in my office. For some kids, they express their happiness and their gratitude by bringing pictures with them when they come to the office. And I think probably one of the most humbling things is when somebody draws a picture of me or wants to dress up like me. So I see, art in the interpretation and also in the imitation of real life. And then we can use it as a therapy tool, whether it's with one of our therapists or with our child life team, especially for children who are hospitalized and going through a severe illness. Sometimes there's things that they can't put into words that they can draw a picture about, especially if it's scary. And this can be utilized to really help them experience the motion and maybe change the picture, maybe make it look a little better. What would make somebody look more friendly? Would it be a crown on top of their head? Would it be changing the colors? And then also for a child who's gone through a traumatic event, sometimes they can't say what happened to them, but they can draw a picture and what scares them the most or what they're scared of. And that can be very enlightening. So it's definitely integral to what we do on a daily basis, and actually can be really eye-opening when a child has been through a traumatic event or is having a difficult time dealing with their emotions.
Yeah, yeah. Nicole, I know that you've done a lot of work over the years with the public health sector,
Yes.
working in public health. have you experienced instances where either you've seen the utilization or art, or where you know that the utilization of allowing someone in a creative way to express what they were feeling might have been a better bridge to like sort of a level of success?
Yeah, I mean, I think exactly what we're talking about here, like we're talking a lot about like a more clinical application of it, especially to individuals. But my experience has been more, how do we use art more collectively, right? To like impact public health. And so that's more where my kind of hands-on experience has been. And so I just want to tell you, Dr. Kennedy, I'm actually like I guess you could say like a follower or a member because I have an 8-year-old. And so I'm also a guardian at Lightem and of course work in public health. So I have intersected with the campaign, know a good bit about what you folks are trying to accomplish with it. And I think it's wonderful. And I think there's really a natural fit with what, what they're really trying to do with the Straz and creating this movement of partners. And I think you folks are really a natural partner for this. So I'm just like looking and thinking about the social media campaign and how you folks put out a lot of sort of like kind of like calls to action for people to do things. And one of the things that I think Fred was talking about, I think a little earlier on this call, was about also like accessing, young people being exposed and accessing the art, art, whether that's performing arts, music, dance, all of it. And that is, I feel like a kind of a call to action when it comes to the parent caregiver kind of blasts that you folks put out there is like, go, take your kids and enjoy, because there's a social cohesion piece to that of building community and kids feeling connected, which is we know, right, is really important for young people to support their sense of place and self and value. And then also the bonding with the caregiver is something that can happen around having access. And I can't speak on behalf of the Straz, but I know Fred, one of the things that he really is trying to do is find ways for people to know about the incredible free events that the Straz offers, and plus all the partners in Tampa Bay. And so I wonder if that also might be a piece that we fold in here, again, around collective, how do we create community health, right? Like through the arts for young people.
Yeah, that's great. Fantastic. The old cliche, and it's not a cliche anymore for me, is, of really important things are t-shirts and hats. And I just happen to have an on your sleeve hat, and I and I got a lot of hats. People know I wear a lot of hats, right? But ever since I've only had this hat about 4 days, and I've had 5 different people say, "What's that on your sleeve?" So this is a really, really colorful, beautiful, playful way for us to engage. And I think, Dr. Kennedy, we're trying to roll together. And again, through the tremendous support that we get from the BayCare Health Systems and the work that you all are doing. And this is one of the biggest national conversations: is how do we merge? How do we bring the art community together with the medical community, the science and research community, to speak a common language? For a child and a family to have the experience of coming into one of your clinics, coming in for care, and having the option to draw, but not, I think most people think that the crayons and things are there just to keep the child quiet. You know what I mean? Just to kind of distract them, and so maybe they won't be as frightened when they go in and do whatever. But this opportunity to create a common language, and the importance of that. I feel like one of the really powerful experiences that I have had and that I've seen through the work that Viev and Taya Artistry does is that, through a conversation about human behavior and how do we kind of function and how do we come to make decisions, we come to realize that a lot of where we are now is based upon the experiences that we had when we were 4 years old, or when we were 3 years old. It's like in that period of time of deciding, So one of the things that we want to do is redefine or retexturize individuals' opportunities to engage with creativity, to know that it is an important part of the expression and cultivation of your mental health. That it's, that one of the greatest gifts that the human mind is given is the capacity to create, right? And that we're all artists in our own way. And that, and to the degree that along with, I mean, the amazing impact, I mean, the information that is in this flip chart here is really, really wonderful about, having a conversation, even feeling safe to have a conversation. And I know that, even with my grandchildren, will I've a couple of my grandchildren, especially my granddaughter Sadie. She's like an orator. She's like a walking libretto. I mean, but she has the freedom to feel that, after that. And I remember one day after doing this big thing, she like sat down and she went, huh. And I said, "What, Sadie?" And she said, "That felt good." You know what I mean? So just to be able to understand that there are these creative ways for us to engage. Um, we don't often get the opportunity. So I want to seize the opportunity to ask you as a physician, in addition to what you're already doing in terms of utilizing art, what may be other ways? What are other pathways that we can begin to fuse to bring together the shared conversation and practical application? Because our Art and Mind Village chat team, our motto, our mission statement is to actualize the impact of artistic expression on the transformation and health and well-being of individuals. So what might be some additional ways that we can think about and that we can work together with BayCare to move some of these actions forward?
I think part of it starts here, right? It's the conversation around what can we do next. It's the socialization of those ideas, and then it's sort of the integration into what we're already doing, right? We're not starting something new from the ground up. This is something that sort of seeps. I always think of it as something that molds together over time. You've got different bubbles, and then all of a sudden you have one big bubble, and it all works together and it flows. I think for families, understanding that self-expression can happen in so many different ways. We have pushed children in an education way that they have to succeed, they have to succeed, they have to succeed. They have to participate in a sport, they have to be the best, they have to be the best, they have to be the best. But can't we just get to the point where let them explore, let them try new things, whether it's playing with their food, whether it's drawing a picture, whether it's building with a Lego, whether it's dancing to a song, whether it's making their own music and say that felt good. Those are all different forms of self-expression that we should encourage kids to explore their environment. And I think part of that is socializing as well, right? It's not just being by yourself, but appreciating that in terms of the world and the individuals around you, which is almost the complete opposite that we've seen post-pandemic, right? During the pandemic, what did we do? We all isolated because it was good for us medically. However, we realized that it probably wasn't good for us socially. The isolation, the being able to carry on a conversation, and the reliance on technology that doesn't put emotions into what we're doing has all sort of crippled a generation. And I've seen kids who at one point hadn't seen anybody outside their family except for their pediatrician in 18 months of their life have to go back and develop those socialization skills. So understanding that all these different parts are integral to the development of a child means that we have to have that introduction to the world around them and let them explore. So I think it's the freedom of expression, it's the freedom of a movement, and it's also understanding that the mind can harness such amazing energy to create great things. And whether it's something that they're building, whether it's something they're drawing, or whether it's an idea that then comes into being, those are all part of how the arts and the mind work together and how that interprets into good health.
Wow, that's fantastic. in the work that you've done in the last few years, especially like kind of taking a look at before and then after the pandemic, um, in your insight work, have you felt a shift or seen a shift in terms of people's perceptions, or I mean, because the insight approach is a powerful methodology, but have you felt that shift in terms of how folk interact, or even the ability to kind of glean, glean authentic conversation from folks?
Hmm. The thing that comes to mind when you ask that question, Fred, is just the and Dr. Kennedy, you were just talking about this isolation and how, I mean, it was good for us, yes, right? But on this emotional level, it was so just hard and so, oh God, the word that's coming to me is like stultifying. I don't even know if that's a word, but they're like it was stymied. We were
Yeah.
stymied, right, in this
Yes.
place. And we had the opportunity before the pandemic. We were planning on doing a piece. It was in Raleigh, North Carolina. We were part of the main stage season at Burning Coal Theater, and ready to sort of move into the theater, and the pandemic happened and everything shut down. And we actually ended up, because our piece was almost all movement based, we were able to put masks on all the performers, because again, there wasn't words, so that all of the 12 performers were masked. And we actually were able to open the doors of the theater and invite 12 people a time into the theater, because I mean, we were supposed to have 60 people a time, right? But because of only welcoming in 12, or only being able to welcome in 12, we were able to socially distance. So we had 6 feet between every single chair in the theater, and we put the chairs all around the theater, and the performers were able to, everyone was masked, and the performers were able to go on and do the performance. And the performance was about um, our what happens when we polarize ourselves, and when we're polarized from each other, and when we're polarized from culture. Like, that was the theme of the piece, of like polarization, and the things that we can do to transcend that polarization, particularly our own polarization, like the polarizing habits of mind. And so it was just this incredible kind of opportunity during the pandemic to use art to connect in this very particular way with these very few people in this huge theater. But the response just to a person was like, thank God for that. Thank
Mm.
God for that, hour and a half in that theater. And I think the way that we were able to do it made people feel safe enough to relax into it, and to really take in the experience, and to kind of have this moment in time during this like incredibly, incredibly stressful period, to allow themselves to feel, to allow themselves to connect, to allow themselves to look into each other's eyes, all of these things. So, Fred, that was just what came to my mind when you asked about that kind of difference. Or have I seen something like transpire before the pandemic and after? The thing that I am so curious about for all of you, I mean, just every time we're all like throughout our whole conversation, I just keep wondering. So putting so mental health and spiritual health, and using the arts to do so, and coloring books in the pediatric waiting room, and all of these things seem so liberating. And I just wonder about so what are some of the resources? Because also you liberate your child's imagination, you liberate your child's voice, you liberate your child's, creativity, and it can be incredibly scary for the parent. Like, some of the things that come up, like the real, there can be some threat there. Like, I have all of these images of how I want my child to be. I have all these images of and keeping up with the Joneses, whatever it is. They have to be the best at soccer. They have to be the best at this. And then there's this kind of like, there's this entree for the children to sort of be this different kid, or to explore themselves in different ways. And I can imagine like yes, I want my child to be happy, but oh my goodness, look what my child is doing. Look what Sadie's talking about. Look what, right? So I just keep thinking, like, what are the things that are happening, and the things we can do that not even just the talking points, but what is the work for the parents, and what do we do when we recognize that threat that is like the parent saying, I know I should want my child to do this, but woof.
Yeah.
I think
Dr.
for a
Kennedy.
moment you have to put yourself into your child's shoes, right? Is this something I really want to do or I don't want to do? And you have to be a role model for that. And it's okay to express your emotions. I think one of the platforms that it's probably the most difficult to talk about, but here in this week, is tragedy in the media. We see it time and time and time again. And whether it's on a worldwide scale or locally or close to home or someone you know or just on the news, how do you talk to your kids about that? And so I think number one, a parent has to get in touch with their own emotions. And it's okay to say, I'm scared too. I don't know what's going to happen, but I want you to know that I'm here for you. And having that connection is really what determines a child's resilience. So sometimes you don't know the right answers. Being a parent does not come with a handbook. And every child is different, even for my own children. I mean, I have young adults now, and sometimes I'm like, whew, we managed to get you through the formative years, but there are still things that come around and conversations that are not easy. But I think understanding that we don't have all the answers, but no matter what happens, we are there for you really makes all the difference. In looking at trauma informed conversations, kids that have been through tragic events, the one difference in their life of success or not success is having a trusted adult. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a parent. It can be another adult in their life. So for some, it's a grandparent. For some, it's a church leader. For some, it's a youth leader. For some, it's a coach. For somebody, it's just somebody that they met that took the time to listen to them and realized you are worth my time and energy.
Yeah.
And so sometimes the reaction to that is, wow, you're a lot. But other times it's, I love your spirit. I love you are becoming. And just recognize our kids are a reflection of us, but it doesn't mean they're going to be just like us. I can guarantee that nobody in my family is going to become a doctor. But on the other hand, I can't make them happy, but I can help guide their happiness based on some of the things that they want and they need. One of my colleagues put it very simply. There are 6 things we need to give our children: food, clothing, shelter, love, education, and safety. And it's within those realms that we give them their basic needs that they flourish. Because if they're safe and if they have their basic needs, they can really go on to have those expressions of self and develop those other things that they need, and the other desires, and show what they're really about. So I think what it comes down to is if we give kids the ground to flourish and we give them the tools that they need, they're going to do great. We just have to be there to support them and help them explore the world around them, because everybody is different. They all have interests, but you have to give them that ability. And art is one of those areas where there's so many different genres that they can really explore and see what applies to them and give them ability to have self-expression.
And yeah, just to go off of that too, I think we're talking a lot about supporting the child. I think it's really important for parents to have support within their own systems when dealing with a child that is suffering from any kind of mental health or any kind of significant changes. And when there's that immediate visceral reaction from a parent, even making sure with the conversation, is this a reaction that I'm having as a parent because of my own biases? Like, is this because of something that is scary for me, for when I put myself in their shoes and maybe they don't have that fear? Is this something that I'm scared of because I experienced it and now I don't want my child to experience it? So holding that back is a method of protection as a parent for my child, which the situation could be very different. But I think even just acknowledging that and being aware of that when having those conversations as a parent, to have any kind of support, whether that means that parent has a group or has like really close friends and family to even talk it out, or maybe a therapist of their own, is super important, because you don't want to, it's, you know, we use the term transference, and we want to be really conscientious of that when we're dealing with children, because we don't want to, your reaction as a parent is gonna determine whether or not your child is going to feel safe with you sharing. If you have an immediate visceral reaction that they feel that was negative, they're going to be like, oh, okay, I'm going to pull back, maybe not fully, but I'm not going to give the full picture, because I don't want to worry my parent. A lot of kids are also very aware of their, especially in a single parent home, of overwhelming a parent. So, you know, we call it within the trauma informed care world, parentification of a child, which is when the child ends up doing a lot of parenting because they're worried about their mental health as well. So making sure that, you know, the child is remaining the child, you're having those open conversations, but you as the parent or the guardian, you know, because we're seeing a lot of kids, especially in the Florida system, raised by grandparents or cousins or in foster care. So whoever that safe adult figure is, making sure that they have support to explore their emotions when it comes to what that child's experiencing, and maybe are they having a traumatic response from what their child is saying or sharing to them, I think is a really kind of an important thing to keep in mind too.
It's beautiful. What a rich and informing conversation this chat has been. I think one of the key things that you mentioned, and I think you said there were kind of three principles around on our sleeve, one of them being, you know, eliminating the stigma. I think it's so important now that we're having conversations about mental health, you know, really dealing with the realities that life is tough, and we're experiencing things every day that, you know, many of us have never experienced before, and we're learning new ways to cope, and it's important to feel safe to talk about that. You know, I mean, I know many instances in my work in the world where, you know, people won't tell their truth because they're afraid to be labeled. So I think it's really important. And today we've had the opportunity to kind of celebrate from, you know, from the pediatric experience to growing up and wondering about, you know, what is all this and how do we do it, and from a public health perspective. So, you know, that's the other really important thing, is the partnership, right? Or the sharing of our knowing, and also the sharing of the exploration, which is what the Arts and Health Initiative is all about at the Straz Center, creating opportunities for us to learn, to know what we don't know, to learn what we don't know, and to work together on all levels to really enrich each individual and enrich our communities ultimately. So, Dr. Christina Kennedy, thank you so very much for all that you do. Thank you for being here with us on behalf of BayCare. Our huge thanks to the BayCare Health System for their continued support of this work. Viev, thank you for your insight and continued commitment. Nicole, you as well, and Emma, as we all work together to really amplify this conversation of the importance of creative expression, the importance of every individual's opportunity to move towards a deeper understanding and support of themselves, and sort of the moving closer together as opposed to away from each other as we continue to explore this life's journey of how to make the world a better place for everybody. So on behalf of the Straz Center for the Performing Arts, thank you all for being with us. And thank you, all of you who have taken the time, your greatest commodity, to spend it with us here at the Art and Mind Village Chat. Until next time, take care.